Alright, welcome back to the Speedy Space Marine series. Today we're going to be looking at the White Scars, a legion known for their speed and ferocity throughout the Horus Heresy. So I'm going to show you a super fast way to get these guys on the tabletop in 30 minutes or less. All the paints you'll need will be listed below in the description, so let's get into it. So we're going to start with a mix of Dawnstone and Titanium White. We're starting from a grey primer. I wouldn't recommend that you use white or black for this because it just would take too long to build up the black, and if you prime with white you don't really have anywhere to go with your highlights. So we're taking a mix of the Dawnstone and the Titanium White, about 50-50 give or take, and applying this with a large Artis Opus Drybrush. Again, we're focusing on the areas where the light would catch, so down the legs, the top of the shoulders, top of the chest, arms, and top of the backpack. We want to keep these transitions nice and smooth, so we're using the dampener to soften the bristles and introduce some water to avoid that grainy texture, and then just building up the color in gradual steps, introducing more Titanium White as we get closer to the highest highlights and to pick out the most prominent points of detail. So again, you can see we're focusing on the front part of the legs, following those natural light lines that appear whenever you hold your model underneath the hobby light. Now you might notice in some of these sections the blends are a bit more rough because I've been applying them in a sort of stippling fashion just to introduce some texture to the armor and make it a bit more interesting to look at. I'm now coming in with an extra small Artis Opus Drybrush and using Titanium White to pick out some more chips and damage within the armor. I'm focusing on the areas that we highlighted previously because that's where the chips will be more prominent or more visible. And then we're targeting the edge of the armor plates whenever we're applying the majority of the chipping, as those are the areas that usually get caught. So it's the edge of the greaves, edge of the shoulder pads, edge of the elbow pads, stuff like that. And then the larger, flatter areas, we're keeping them a bit less frequent. So now we're coming in with some Mars Black and just cleaning up all of those rubberized sections and all of the sections that we're going to have silver later on. This just acts as a better foundation, in my opinion, for silvers. I think applying them over white, they don't necessarily get that glint or that shine the way I want them to. So now we're coming in with some Exhaust Manifold and applying that all over the sections where we want to be silver. So that's the backpack, the, I guess, strapping across the front of the chest and onto the bolter. Take your time whenever you're doing this. Try not to hit any of the white armor that we did previously because that'll be a nightmare to clean up now. If you do hit any of those sections, get yourself a damp brush and wipe it away as fast as you possibly can. So with the bolter, we'll be leaving the casing pretty much black, so we'll be just hitting the silver areas. Again, be careful whenever you're doing this, but if you have to go back and touch up any of the black, it's not really a problem. So now I've thinned down my Mars Black into a glaze, a wash, a filter consistency. You can use Nuln Oil or your preferred black wash for this, but I just find it easier to thin down the Mars Black and use it as a wash. Applying this all over the silver sections to create definition, separation, and to dull down that color so we can apply a highlight over the top of it. And it's the same with the bolter. You can apply this all over the bolter, including the gun casing, no problem there. So now we're going to take some burnt sienna umber, one of my favorite colors whenever it comes to doing these speedy marines, and we're going to use this to give the indication of dirt, grime, grit, oils, all sort of build up that you would have throughout the battle. So we'll be applying this over the rubberized sections. This just creates more definition and separation in those areas and adds in some different tones. With the Burnt Sienna Umber, it's obviously a warmer tone, so it helps complement that bluish kind of tone that we have within the armor. And you can apply this over the silver sections as well to indicate some rust, some grime, some oils in those areas, especially around the backpack and the vents on the side. It looks really good. And just doing the same with the bolter, applying it on the magazine and some of the areas that are in contact with the casing. And then now we're just coming in with our exhaust manifold one more time and applying some highlights in selective areas, sort of stippling, sort of scratching, doing various different techniques just to introduce more texture and more variation in those areas. We're going to take some Retributor gold and apply that onto the gold iconography across the model with a quick wash of some Burnt Sienna Umber just to add in some more warm tones and variation. So I've taken some Russ Grey and I've thinned this down into a wash or a glaze consistency, and we're going to use this to panel line our white armor. Again, this just adds in some cool tones and makes it a bit more interesting and adds some more separation to those plates. So whenever you're doing this, just thin it down, test it in a couple of the recesses, and we're using the capillary action, so we've thinned down the paint enough that it flows out of the brush and into the recesses with minimal effort. So you can pretty much just touch the tip of your brush into those areas and the paint should flow out and shade those areas for you. Again, try to be careful whenever you're doing this. Try not to apply it, too liberally that it's spilling out from the recesses and tinting too much of the white armor. So it takes a wee bit of practice to understand how to thin down your paint enough to be able to do this, but we can touch on that on a future video. So we're now going to take some Khorne Red and apply that into the eye socket or over the eye lens as a foundation for the red lenses. Following that up with some Evil Sunz Scarlet, we're going to start to highlight towards the inside of the lens and along the bottom edge. Again, try to be careful whenever you're doing this. Try not to get it onto any of the white armor as it'll stain quite quickly. Again, if that happens, wipe it away with a damp brush. Add in some primary yellow to start building up your highlights and head towards orange. You can use an orange paint for this if you want. Again, I just find it easier to mix. And we're always focusing towards the inside corner of the lens and the bottom edge. Once you've highlighted that enough, take some titanium white and apply a single dot to the rear corner of the eye lens. Make sure you brace, apply a single dot with confidence, and it should turn out perfectly. I'm going to show you how I put together the base for this. I took some Vallejo thick mud and just applied that all over the base. You can do this with a brush as well, but I just used this hobby tool that I have that just makes life that wee bit easier. Saves me ruining as many brushes as well. If you are doing this with a brush, I do recommend that you do it with an old battered brush as well. Don't use any new brushes or any sable brushes when doing this. Just work it out to the edge and then let that dry. Once it's dry, we're going to come in with the Martian Iron Earth and we're going to apply a few dollops of this over the base. That'll help give our mud this like crackled dry effect on the top. Don't worry that it's a different color, we are going to be coming in and painting this. So once it's all dry, you get these sort of crackled effects on the top and it just gives the mud a bit of a different impression and adds a wee bit more information to the base. So prime that black and then come in again with our large dry brush and start building up some Mournefang Brown over the base. Just apply this in a normal dry brushing fashion. Actually, I'm probably applying this in more of a layer, getting the color down quickly. Mix a bit of XV88 in with your previous color and just start to dry brush over. Use circular motions and keep the pressure light so you're starting to pick out the detail within the base. Then using some Tallarn Sand, mix that in with your XV88 and begin picking out a few more of the details. Again, light pressure, circular motions, and just pick out those edges of the base. And then some pure Tallarn Sand just to hit the last few highlights. This is just to give us some color variety throughout the base before we come in with a wash over the top of this. So to get a bit more saturation and color into the base, we're going to be using some burnt sienna umber and just applying this in a thick wash over the base. If you have like Agrax Earthshade or another similar color, you can just use that. And be quite liberal whenever you're doing this as well, because you want this to help add some tone to the recesses. And then come back in with your previous Drybrush mixes with the XV88 and the Bestial Brown, or Mournefang Brown, I think, sorry, as it is now, and start building up those tones again. Adding some Tallarn Sand into the mix just really hit those edges and give the impression that the mud is dried on the top. With the remaining paint that's on your brush, just apply this over the base of the feet, or the bottom of the feet and the bottom of the greaves, just to give that impression that the Marine has been walking through the dirt. And when you're all said and done, it should look something like this. So we have our white scar ready for the tabletop. He's got some weathering along the feet. We've got some nice crisp white armor looking really stark, contrasts nicely with those warm tones.
Crap! Emotional, damn it!
Alright, okay, so I realized that I made a mistake with the pauldron. These should actually be gold and not silver, so I'm coming back in with the Retributor Armour and I'm going to cover up my mistake. Again, just hitting the top, the bottom, and filling in those gold parts in between. We'll just say that this never happened and it was always intentional. Now to add a bit more warmth to those gold components, we're going to come in with our burnt sienna umber wash and apply that over the top, just add in some more depth, some more warmth, and create some separation between the gold components and the white armor. Again, be careful whenever you're applying this, try not to apply too much or you'll potentially stain the armor, the white armor underneath. Then coming in with a bit more Retributor Armour and applying some highlights over the top. Then we're going to take some Evil Sunz Scarlet and we're going to apply some red sections just to give that more white scars a look. You could obviously add in some freehand here and create some more interesting patterns over this, but we want to get these guys on the tabletop quickly, so I'm just going to target one or two areas. Around the wrists seem like a nice simple section, then we'll just add in a small amount to the shoulder pad. Obviously if you're doing this for your character models, be a bit more elaborate and try out some different things, but I'll be talking a bit more about freehand in some later videos. But now that we've fixed our mistake, we're all said and done, I think our white scars look great. Super fast way to get these guys on the tabletop looking nice with their super bright, stark white armor and those warm tones to complement those blue tones within the armor. Great scheme, great army, super fun lore. Give it a go, let me know how you get on. Hopefully you found that useful. If you have any comments, questions or suggestions for future videos, please drop them below in the comments. And if you want to take your painting to the next level, I have a Patreon that's focused around feedback and coaching. You'll also get access to exclusive content and guides. I stream on Twitch if you want to come by and hang out, and we have a Discord where you can share your work and get involved with the community. All of the links can be found below in the description, but before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you at the next one. Thank you for watching.